It's Kyle here, and today I'll be reviewing the latest nonfiction book I have read, and that is Disobeying Hitler, German Resistance After Valkyrie by Randall Hansen. Before I get started with my review of this book, just a reminder, if you enjoyed this review, please hit that like button, and if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate the support. But onto the book. As you might guess from the title and the cover, this book covers a certain aspect of World War II, and that's basically German resistance to Hitler after the assassination attempt in Valkyrie. Valkyrie, maybe people are familiar with it, Tom Cruise did a movie about it. But basically in 44, during the summer of 44, some German officers attempted to assassinate Hitler. They almost succeeded, but failed. And that a lot of times is viewed as the last chance for the German people, or really last serious effort by the German army to basically overthrow Hitler and try to bring it into the war before basically the war went on for another year and cost so many more lives and stuff like that. But what this book explores is how resistance to Germany took shape during that last year of the war. I'd really never read a book or seen a documentary that kind of covered this aspect of World War II, so I found it very interesting. There's different types of resistance that this book covers. There's really no assassination attempts. And usually when you think of resistance to Hitler, I know I've seen several documentaries or History Channel specials kind of about this. It's usually about like, all right, here's all the times people tried to assassinate Hitler from when he came to power to the end of his reign. And that's how usually resistance is viewed, as like trying to assassinate him or trying to overthrow the government. This is not really the form of resistance that this book explores. There's a few different forms. The most common one was during the last year of the war. Hitler basically ordered a scorched earth policy. So everything as the Germans were retreating should be destroyed. Nothing should be left for either the Allies to use, but also to punish people for Hitler losing the war, basically. His way of getting back at everybody. The author explores several instances where German officers, enlisted soldiers, civilians in Germany, civilians in France, really took steps to try to stop this. Some, were very small scale stuff. Other ones were very large. So probably the most prominent example is German officers who were stationed in Paris, who basically resisted Hitler's orders to destroy the city when it was fixing to be recaptured by the Allies and liberated. Hitler basically wanted the city completely destroyed, turned nothing to rubble. The German officers in Paris at the time did not want this to happen, and then basically they conspired to try to surrender Paris to the Allies with as little damage to the city as possible at that point in the war. But you also have smaller scale examples of this, like villages, bridges, railroads that German civilians or officers tried to save from Hitler's destruction orders. Other examples of resistance was anything from simple as trying to, as the Allies were approaching cities, especially in Germany, a lot of times civilians from that city would try to make contact with the Allies and try to get the city to be surrendered peacefully and not a siege laid to it. So the civilians would first have to make contact with the Allies, but they would also have to try to convince the German military and government officials in the city to let the city be surrendered peacefully, to try to preserve their city at the point where the war was obvious that Germany was going to be defeated. There was no hope. So there's several examples of this that's kind of stored in the book. There's also examples of people trying to save people at the end, from deserters to political opponents to the many victims of the Holocaust: Jews, Gypsies, communists, homosexuals, all the groups that were targeted by Hitler, and many more that I did not mention. Individuals trying to save as many lives as possible. And one thing I found interesting about this book is the author does explore the motivation behind these acts. Some were very much people that had opposed Hitler from the beginning and had been doing stuff nonstop, and they felt basically more comfortable towards the end of the war to take even bigger steps. Some were people that had never really been opponents of Hitler, but they'd never been big supporters. And as the war was coming to end, they were just trying to save Germany, save as many lives, save their cities from total destruction. Other ones were more opportunists. They were committed Nazis who had been supporters of Hitler from the very beginning, but at the end they realized this war is over. And there was kind of a couple modes. One was like people were like, oh, this is crazy, we don't need to be fighting war, we need to surrender. Other ones are having more selfish motivations that realize like, oh, we're going to lose. I'm either probably going to get sent to prison or executed. I need to do some stuff then to make myself look good to the Allies. So those are explored. At the same time, the author also contrasts those with other people of authority, other German military officers, other government officials who did not take this step and did not try to resist Hitler. If anything, they tried to enforce Hitler's orders to the very end, trying to kill as many people as possible, basically trying to destroy all property to basically, prevent the Allies from getting it, but also to take revenge on the German people for not supporting Hitler in such a way that they could win the war. So overall, I've read a lot of books about World War II, but I've never really read a book that kind of explored this aspect of World War II. So I found it very, very interesting. So if you're really into the history of World War II, I would definitely recommend this book because it's an interesting look at, I guess, a little explored aspect of World War II. And of course, the entire time you're reading this is like, why could more of this resistance happen earlier? Why could it have, more assassination attempts for the German army stepped in and tried to overthrow Hitler? That's one thing the author explores a lot of times, especially the German military officers, is like, as they were opposing Hitler in 44 and 45, how many lives could have been saved if they took those steps several years earlier. So, it's it's not exactly a happy read. It can be depressing, but is a very interesting read. So I definitely recommend if you're into reading history, especially World War II history, I think this is a book you'll very much enjoy. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and this review. As I mentioned in the video, hope you'll hit the like button. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to the channel. In the comment section below, let me know if there's been any good history books you've read about World War II lately. It's definitely one of my favorite eras of history to study, so if you have any good recommendations, I'm definitely interested. Again, hope you enjoyed the video, happy reading, and see you the next time.